Fatherlessness is an epidemic happening in our society at great rates. So many families are without a father that is present. But there are families that have a physical father, and even though they're physically present, these fathers are emotionally absent. Take a listen to this podcast to see what the negative result can be for you if you have been fatherless. But listen to the end, because there's good news with healing for those wounds that have been inflicted. Welcome to my podcast, giving you a fresh start after trauma. I'm Regina Sanchez, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Starting over after trauma can be a blend of real pain and some hope, sadness and then some joy. It's a mixture of moments of faith and then moments of fear. There will be times when you'd rather not remember, but then times of excitement. You may fail along the way, but if you keep moving forward, your discouragement will turn to peace. Some days you may feel like giving up, and other days you're running in your race to victory. That, my friend, is a journey of having a fresh start after trauma. And if you are in any of these places and need some encouragement, you have stopped at the right place. Let's journey together to giving you a fresh start after trauma. Join me now to be revived, rejuvenated, and restored to a place of living free from your past emotional pain. Welcome, friends, to my podcast, giving you a fresh start after trauma. Today, I'm continuing a teaching that I started last week, and I have good news for you to give you. So let's get started. Well, last week, I wrote about God's plan or purpose for your life, and if you were wondering what that purpose might be, I discussed one of the ways you might be able to define your purpose in that message. If you're unsure, because it's important to know what your purpose is and how to move into it. Now, if you did not get that message or listen to that podcast, you can just go below. There's a link, and you can listen to the message or read the message. Today, I am going to continue, though. And I'd like to expand on it a little further and talk about with you perhaps a reason why you might be questioning what your purpose is. We all have had or have careers, but having a career or a job does not necessarily mean you are walking in what God has created you to walk in. Sometimes we take jobs because it pays the bills, and there's really nothing wrong with that. But there does come a point in our life when we feel this void or emptiness in our soul, and nothing we seem to do can fill it. Well, if you experience that, could it possibly be that you have a calling to do something and you have yet to move into it? I remember years ago, listening to a teaching from a pastor who shared a story of some ministry time he had with a couple. They were struggling in their marriage, and this man, the husband, was full of anger and in a state of depression that he couldn't seem to get out of or get beyond it. And this pastor asked him this question: was there something in your life you felt called to do but didn't do it? Well, the wife immediately spoke up and said, I can answer that. When we first got married, he wanted to be a lawyer, but I told him I would not stay with him if he chose that path. That ultimatum moved him into anger and depression. Well, first off, I want to say how mean of her to put an ultimatum on what he was feeling called to do. And secondly, because he chose not to move into that calling to save his marriage, he fell into a state of depression. And I guess you have to ask the question, did he save his marriage? It doesn't sound like it. Well, do you feel a void in your life that there's something more that you are to do, but you can't put your finger on it? Is there an emptiness in your soul and you've been trying to fill it with all kinds of things, but those things aren't working? Perhaps it's because you are not walking in what you were called to be or do. Sometimes we can have a sense of what we were called to do, or called, to move into the calling, our destiny, our career, however you want to define it. But just like that man, you let others sway you from moving into that calling. I know I did. And I remember it like it just happened. It's so vivid in my mind. I have the clearest image of my father shaming me into what I felt was my destiny. I wanted to be a teacher. And when I was younger, I'm telling you, I ate, slept, played, being a teacher. That was truly my heart's desire. And I was perhaps at this point in about 10th grade. And I remember sitting in the living room on the piano bench. And my father was standing behind the recliner in the dining room. The dining room and the living room were connected. And I told him I wanted to go to school to be a teacher. Well, his response really shocked me because he started screaming at me and swearing and saying that I was going to go to school, pay all that money, and not get a job. And of course, there were swear words in between all that. Well, how mean was that? Yes, at that time they were reporting that teachers were in abundance, but that was then. It would take me 2 more years of high school, 4 years of college, and perhaps some grad school if I chose to. So that was at least 6 more years. Things probably would have been better by then. I'm sure they would. But I let him shame me into not fulfilling my heart's desire. Did you have something similar to that in your life? Well, if you did, it's never too late to change course directions and have a fresh start. It might take some planning, some sacrifices, and great changes on your part. But if you put your mind to it, you can make it happen if you want it badly enough. But there is another scenario that you could be experiencing, and that is not knowing what you were called to be or do. Because you see, it is a father's responsibility to help their child get a sense of self-worth, identity, and purpose. And if your father wasn't present, then he could not help you move into that place of confidence or purpose or identity. Or he could have been physically present, but emotionally abandoned you. That was my situation. My dad was physically there, but he was emotionally gone all of my life. Now, I don't hate him or hold it against him. I have forgiven him. But there are times in my heart I wish I had a dad that helped me move into adulthood. Because then perhaps I would not have gone through the pains that I've went through. It's said that a man must invest in their children by the age of 12. Otherwise, the child's heart will close, and they'll begin to build a stone wall around their heart. They then become angry because of the lack of affirmation and direction. Have you been fatherless, either physically, emotionally, or both? What are some of those signs or symptoms that you may experience by being fatherless? I love what Denise Boggs has to say about this topic. She says that, number 1, you could feel like you have no purpose for life. Or number 2, having a clear direction, what you should be doing is just not there. You're in a constant state of confusion or chaos about what you are supposed to be doing. Or number 3, at times you'll tend to be a performer, and you're doing whatever is needed to be accepted by those around you. Or number 4, you tend to have little or no identity. You don't really know even who you are. Or lastly, because you are unable to get settled anywhere for a long period of time, you become a wanderer. And that was me, for sure. I've dealt with a lot of these symptoms. But you know what? The great news is we don't need to stay there. And the even greater news is that we don't need to go back to our earthly fathers to have them repair what they damaged. Because for some of us, our dad isn't even alive. And for others, he would still be incapable of helping you. Now, if you have a relationship with your dad and you could go back and you could sit down and you can share these things with your dad and he would be open and maybe remorseful about some of the things he did, then by all means, have that conversation. But if your dad isn't alive, or he's alive, but he would be of no help to help you get to a place of healing, then it doesn't mean you have to stay there. Because this is one of the reasons that I wrote my book, Can I Have Your Heart, Daddy? I wasn't searching or seeking my earthly father's heart. He was incapable of giving it. It was the heart of my heavenly Father that I was seeking. And of course, the answer to that question is always yes, because he will never abandon us or ever leave us. You know, when Jesus was preparing to be crucified, he said to his disciples, I promise that I will never leave you helpless or abandon you as orphans. I will come back to you. And the crazy thing was, most of his disciples were not orphans. They had fathers. They had earthly fathers. But what they needed was a relationship with their heavenly Father. And unless we pursue that relationship, we will be orphans. Our heavenly Father will heal those wounds that our earthly father may have inflicted on us. He will heal those wounds to a place like nothing ever happened. It's not a Band-Aid per se that he's putting on your wound, but a complete healing that won't even have a scar. So spend some quiet time and reflect on what I just said, or what I just wrote if you read it. If you fall into any of those scenarios, then reach out to the Father in heaven. And if you don't have a relationship with him, then begin now. It's never too late to have a fresh start. Well, friends, thank you for listening to this message that I hope it inspired you. Although it may have started out feeling like doom and gloom, it doesn't end there. It doesn't have to end with you feeling despair. There's healing for you. And the most intentional, best healing is from your Heavenly Father. So get quiet, spend some quiet time and reflect on what I wrote. If you're in this place of feeling lost and confused, and you feel this emptiness, spend some quiet time and ask the Father to show you what may be in your heart that needs to be healed. So friends, be blessed, be encouraged. Share this message with anyone you know who may need to hear it. Know that you're loved. Know that I love you, your Father loves you, and I'm here to help in any way that I can. God bless. Thanks for listening. Thank you, my friends, for taking the time to listen to my podcast. I hope you found it uplifting and encouraging, and that it guides you to having peace, love, joy, and health in your life. If you would like more information on my coaching programs, then go to my website, reginasanchez.com, where you can see the services I offer to give you a fresh start after trauma. You can also find my book, Can I Have Your Heart, Daddy, on Amazon. It is my personal journey back to the heart of my Heavenly Father. Be blessed, be encouraged, and know that you are loved.